Hello, everyone. Welcome to Backyard Musings, broadcasting live from Apple Valley. What you're seeing on the screen right now, I'm Steve.
And I'm Scott.
What you're seeing on the screen right now is yesterday outside of my front door on the left. It's outside of the front door. There's smoke from fires. And then on the right side, after I picked up Cameron, it's just an hour later, I saw blue sky. So I snapped that shot. That's what we're dealing with, smoke and ash. And my wife said there was ash at her school.
Yeah, no, there. I mean, I had ash in my yard last night and today. So yeah, so if you haven't been paying attention, Southern California is,
On
at
fire.
least in the mountains, or mountain areas, are just on fire. The Mount Baldy areas, that fire is burned into Wrightwood, which does it. I mean, you may seem like a long way. It's a way the crow flies. It's not really that far, but it's a lot of territory, a lot of shrubbery and trees and just beautiful landscape that's just gone up in smoke. And
Yeah, that's
it's
what
too
we're
bad.
dealing with. Yeah.
And then the fire that started in Highland, that burned up through Running Springs, that fire has burned into the Big Bear area, and it's just causing all kinds of havoc up there. So, and then there's that the other fire that started. Oh my gosh.
The bridge fire.
Bridge fire. Well, that's the Mount Baldy fire, I think.
Okay.
But I just heard about a fire down in Riverside County that,
Oh,
that started either yesterday morning or last night, and it's starting to burn. And if you're not familiar with our climate here, this time of year we get a lot of winds, and they did make an arrest on an arson arrest for somebody who they believe intentionally lit the fire on in Highland, the line fire. So, and I was just telling Steve before we got on, whenever I think about these fires that are this close together and started within a certain, a close amount of time, that I think, somebody's out there doing it.
yeah.
But we have had some lightning and thunder shower activity, so it could be that too. But our mountains, I mean, it's our turn, I guess. Not that I like to say that, but I mean, Northern California has been really hit hard the last couple of years, and this year's our year, I guess.
So today we're going to dedicate the segment to the anniversary of 9/11. It's the 23rd anniversary. Some of you watching may not have been born back
Yeah,
then.
or young enough to not even realize what was
Yeah.
going on.
So we're just going to talk. Scott's going to lead us, and we'll talk back and forth.
Yeah, so back then, let's see, it was 2001, right?
Yeah.
So it's been 23 years.
Yeah.
I was working for a plumbing supply company, and I remember my wife was getting ready to go to work. She worked for a high school district, a local high school district, and I was getting ready, and I don't know why I was still in bed or at the home, because normally I'd been at work already, but I remember watching the TV and seeing um, the one of the towers on fire, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then I remember them, while they were panning that tower, seeing that second plane fly into that tower, and I got, oh my gosh, that can't be an accident. It's got to be intentional. And then of course, it just took off from there. And by the time I got to work, that was when I think the first tower finally started to come down. And of course, it was very solemn that day of work. We didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of speculation about if there was going to be another attack on the West Coast, L.A. area, San Francisco. I mean, it was just a very solemn, scary day. It was crazy.
I was driving. I lived in Stockton, and I was driving to Emeryville, Pixar. I was doing construction at Pixar, building a pool for Steve Jobs.
And is that right? Really?
It's $1 million pool.
Wow.
Very expensive pool. And so I was probably 1/3 of the way to work, and I'd listen to the radio all the time. And they cut in and said one of the towers is on fire, that a plane, and I think the guy said Cessna, but he wasn't sure. And then
and that proved to be obviously wrong, right?
Right. That was initial reports. And then the second one hit, and the announcer said, "This is ghastly. This is on purpose." And they cut out to the national feed broadcasting. The radio station did, And so I'm driving to work. I'm like, wow, what the heck? And at the time, I was in command of an engineer company, 801st Engineer Company. So it was going through my mind, gosh, what are we going to do? I mean, 9/11 was hit, then the Pentagon was hit.
Yeah, that was another thing that just blew my mind.
Like, we're at war, I thought, as I'm driving into work. I get to work, and the boss says, you know, if you want to go home and be with your family, go ahead. So I turned around and hightailed it back from Emeryville to Stockton, pulled up in the driveway, and my wife was there, and we hugged, and we're like, wow, this is crazy.
Nothing ever
Just
happened like
started
that in my
watching the
lifetime.
TV. Yeah. From then on, started watching TV. And so they grounded all the flights for like 3-4 days.
Yeah, it was several days. And
people were stranded.
And they were told that the president made the announcement, or executive branch made the announcement through the military, that if anybody was flying unauthorized flights, they'd be taken out.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, man, this is wild. This is something you'd see in a movie.
Everybody was grounded. Cessnas, commercial.
And then there was that other flight too, right? That was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that Shanksville.
Were the one that they passengers took over and commandeered the guys that were on board there, and
they attacked them. They didn't get into the cockpit. The pilots nosedived. Well, they went up and then they went down to try and throw them off, and they just decided this is it.
They fought back. I've got to hand it to those people. And what was it? I think there was like 93 people on board of that flight, right?
Yeah,
it's about 93.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a wild time, and it's
the worst attack
on the mainland. Yeah,
right.
Since Pearl Harbor, right?
No, since Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is the second worst attack.
Yeah. But and then we were talking also about the comparison last night that in the debate that Vice President Harris made about January 6th, which we all know that the protest gone awry at the Capitol building. That obviously caused a lot of destruction, a lot of damage. There was a lot of people there that got hurt. Shouldn't have happened, but it did. And but a lot of that, I think, was blown out of proportion. We've seen later that's come forward, right? But she compared that to the I think the Civil War was brought up, and I'm thinking, lady, you're going to be at the ground zero, I believe, or maybe the next day. You don't remember that there was like 3,000 people that lost their lives, and most of those, obviously, there were some first responders there, which
400 police and fire that died, but a lot more there,
right?
And were saved.
Exactly, and they were doing their job. That's what they do. They put themselves in harm's way every time there's a disaster or some kind of catastrophe. But you had almost 3,000 civilians that were just at work or in the wrong place on a sidewalk or wherever, which had nothing to do with any of that. And
totally fleeing from the buildings as the one came down.
Right. And then of course they figured out that most of the people involved that were the terrorists involved in that were from Saudi origin, right? Pretty much.
Saudi or Egypt.
Yeah.
I think most were Saudi.
Yeah. And so that, and we've had a fairly good relationship with Saudi Arabia.
Saudi,
So and then it didn't take very long I had never even heard of this guy before, but when they started speculating about Al Qaeda and that organization, and I'd never
Bush
really
came out and said right away, Osama bin Laden.
And then they talked about Osama bin Laden, and I'm thinking, man, I never even heard of this guy before, but that forever changed after that day because he became basically enemy number one for our country until the day he was killed. And he's even mentioned now, which kind of bothers me a little bit. And then of course we talked about not too long ago about KSM. That's
he was the mastermind.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. So I've got information on him. So he went to University of North Carolina, got a degree in agriculture, and then went back and then fought Mujahideen against the Soviets, kind of radicalized Muslim Brotherhood. And then he had an idea of blowing up planes in Asia. using the plane concept to do that, and that didn't never came to fruition. But he still had that idea, and then he found someone who would listen to him about that because Bin Laden thought the United States was weak. They thought pulling out of Beirut, the Marines pulling out of Beirut after the attack, pulling out of Vietnam after they were losing, pulling out of Somalia after 19 service members killed in Somalia. So he thought the United States was a paper tiger. So Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was talking to him. Yeah, let's get this going. Let's do this attack. And so they started planning it, training the pilots here, and they had just enough rudimentary knowledge to fly the planes, and they went with it.
And yeah, and obviously we were kind of caught with our pants down then, right? I mean, there's a lot of people there that shouldn't have been training here or living here or whatever. And we're kind of in that same boat now with the border and everything. But you know,
good comment.
That was again, that was a time of eye opening for me, and I'm sure a lot of people. That, you know, I think they have the same kind of conversations after Pearl Harbor, because there was a lot of, you know, what ifs, or why didn't we know about this, or did we know about it? And it just the information just wasn't getting out, you know, Monday morning quarterbacking type stuff. And so, but anyway, it just, it forever changed the landscape of how we look at things, at least. And the other thing that it did, which kind of would be nice to have back, was it kind of unified the country.
Yeah,
you not believe that? I mean,
it did.
They had a huge amount of people that volunteered for the military because of that.
Time. Tulsi Gabbard volunteered for that. Yeah, because of that.
I think J.D. Vance volunteered.
A lot of people.
Yeah, a lot of people did. And now some of those people are serving, as we just mentioned, in government positions, you know. But it unified the country as a whole. You know, there was a lot of unification in Congress for getting things appropriated so we could take care of, you know, getting a military presence over the Middle East bigger than we had, and going after what we consider to be the players at that time. So
I was deployed to Iraq 2.5 years after that attack. I knew it was coming.
So you'd already been in the military for a bit then. I
was in command of an engineer company. Yeah. So 801st Engineer, I've worn the cap before. So I knew I was going. That unit didn't go. Eventually, over time, the unit got broken up. People went to different battalions that deployed, but the company didn't deploy. But I was in an engineer group that deployed. So I transferred out and got deployed. So just changed.
Just changed. Very unsettling, uneasy time for our country. But yet, like I said, it brought unity to what we have again. You know, and it's been 20 years, 23 years, where we're just divided again. So
take a moment to think about those over 3,000 lives lost and countless others after from carcinoma or whatever. Just take a moment and, you know, just remember, not that long ago.
Yeah, I remember visiting that Ground Zero area. My son was in a choir. We was attending Granite Hills, and they went back there for a choir competition. And we were back there for a few days, and that's one of the things we did. We went down and walked down to Ground Zero. And of course, back then it was a big hole. They had everything cleaned out by then, but it was eerie and solemn to see that. Again, I'd never been to New York before, haven't been back since, but that was a very, very large hole in the ground where those buildings stood.
I was actually in the building 6 months prior. April 2001, we took a family trip to New York, and
World Trade
I remember
Center.
up at the top, at the top floor, they had a little model of Manhattan. And I remember looking out the window, and they look like ants. People look like ants. Little did I know, 6 months later, they're gone.
Yeah. Just, again, this is a day that, almost think that this day would be a day that they would maybe declare a national holiday, to where people could just stay home and be with their families. And
Patriots Day.
Yeah.
It's Patriots Day.
Yeah. But, just close things up. And I know we do that for other holidays, but it's a pretty important day. So
All right, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll have a good segment tomorrow. We've got it in the works. We're writing it, so but it's going to be about the debate.
Yeah, we're talking about the debate.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Thanks, and have a great day.
yeah, try to have a good day today. Take care.